Alright, response video, no editing and such, just get this done. To be serious, has made another video.
Counter
Kind of a
argument to
snarky
that
thing.
basic fact that we're all here um, as um, as a product of a survival contest. All our little ancestors had to survive all the plagues and all the wars and all the horror and all the brutality to get us here.
The reason I'm not going to argue against that statement is because that is obviously true. It could be called.
Okay, yeah, well, you're not understanding the context of the statement then, because obviously you don't believe it's true, because you think we've evolved empathy. Well, what we show in looking at our history and what has what is done to get us here is that we are basically the product of a hell of a lot of fucking goddamn violence. A preposterous amount of lack of empathy. No evidence of this empathy thing dominating the structure. What instead we see dominating the structure is a preposterous lack of empathy.
Called even a tautology. I'm sorry you don't like the fact that I read books.
Again, that's just bullshit. That's like a creationist saying. If a creationist said the same thing to me, oh, you didn't read my 7,000 page volume on the reconstruction of the 6,000-year-old Earth. Why should I read that shit? Until somebody gives me reason to. They have to give me a cause to say you have something to challenge something here. You give no evidence of this cause. And what tiny little bits you have let drip out of what this woman has written about, I would say is complete crap. The very idea that a baby can be empathetic, it is insane.
And that you think I must be getting bogus ideas from the books I read. I don't know how else to think about these things because that's the only way I can get in contact with people who've spent a lot of time thinking about this.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, that's not the argument you made on YouTube. All you've done is post basically links to books you're promoting. And then you say, I don't believe what they're talking about. I'm just going to sell their books for them. I mean, you have to be able to qualify it. I mean, it's like a movie review. You talk about the parts you like, and you talk about the parts you don't like, and you say, well, this conclusion does sound a little flaky, and this one's a little blah, blah. You have to do a little bit of fucking work, and you've done nothing. You just post this shit like it's an authority, like it's been well-tested, and this is really good stuff. And I'm sorry. And and then you can't even argue or articulate an explanation of it. I mean, you can't do any kind of concise rundown of exactly what the theory is.
And so I read a lot of books about modern theories and the evolution of ideas about altruism.
Well, that's the irony, isn't it? You talk about the evolution of ideas, okay, but your argument is that evolution is somehow controlling our behavior. That ideas aren't controlling us. We're being controlled by our friggin' biology. And I think that's pretty much nonsense. You give somebody information and knowledge, you'll create an empathetic, altruistic, well-disciplined human being. You don't give them knowledge, you'll create a monster, because that's what we are at our core.
And the truth is, there seems to be a new consensus developing.
Who the fuck cares? Again, this argument from popularity is just so fucking annoying, and people use it all the time. And yeah, we all fall into that trap now and then and say, well, everybody knows it. But this is just all the fucking time. This is how we define credibility, is because, well, the scientists agree. Well, that really doesn't mean anything anymore.
Rather than going into a lot of complex things and about these arguments, I'm going to concentrate on just one aspect of Sarah Hardy's argument for altruism and how it developed and why that is important. And I hope you see that this has an evolutionary base. It is based in somewhat...
No, what I hope you see is that there's absolutely no evidence for this whatsoever. This is just complete speculation. Where you could at least cite how she came to this conclusion. I mean, what she studied to acquire this conclusion. But there won't be any of that.
In the idea of the selfish gene. But there is more to it. And here is Sarah Hardy's argument. Hardy decried theories of human nature that emphasize demonic male aggression. The key to our humanity, Hardy contended, was the emergence of group child rearing, also called cooperative breeding or allocare.
Right, and again, you're not going to find this anthropologically. You're not going to find any of this crap. You're certainly not going to find any way to find it racially or even culturally where you're going to find this distinction. So it's just a pile of crap. You're not going to find great, huge differences in how human beings have lived. And there was no empathy in our tribal history. When you got old, you were left on the other side of the bank to die. Anything that couldn't run with the herd, so to speak, keep up with the tribe, was dead. This is just bullshit.
Some 2 million years ago. Among all the ape species, chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, orangutans, mothers rear offspring without seeking or receiving help. Indeed.
Oh, well, yeah, they really don't have a social structure, so this whole concept of help is kind of silly, isn't it? They pick leaves and eat them and then shit on the ground. There's really not much complexity to their existence. So this idea of help, like they need a welfare check or something, is just kind of bogus. All right, but we do see it in elephants. We see it in lots of animals. If one of them is down and injured, the rest of the herd just doesn't take off, okay? They try to do something about it. They try to fix the problem, although they don't have any fucking solutions because they're fucking animals.
Ape moms often keep infants away from other females and males with good reason because others...
Well, that isn't true either, so that's just crap. I mean, there's plenty of documentary film of ape tribes, and the little ones are crawling on, the silverback's head or some other kind of crap. So, there's no reason for a male to be terribly interested in kids. Okay, so probably of the great apes, they spend about as much time as a lion. They'll let the thing play with its tail, but otherwise they don't have a hell of a lot of interest. Yeah, that's basically a guy thing.
May hurt or kill the infant. Child rearing is radically different in hunter-gatherer societies. Mothers in these societies get lots of help from other females, including grandmas, sisters, and friends who may...
Yeah, and again, that can be seen in other evolved mammalian animals. Okay, there's lots of whatever you want to call it, help. But it's a different society. They don't have any structure. So, give them a few amenities like houses and this and bowls of sugar, and I'm sure they would, give each other a bowl of sugar if they needed one, a cup of sugar.
Even breastfeed an unrelated child. Dads and other males often hold, feed, and play with children too.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, they breastfeed them. Ugh.
Which ape males never do. Now, I know you're going to say this is still kinship, empathetic behavior.
No, I'm going to say the truth. That's right. I'm going to argue that any bonds between us as animals are not altruistic, empathetic bonds. They're bonds of possession. They're bonds of familiarity and addiction and attraction and all of that crap. They're not good bonds. They're made out of something called love, which is, again, another bogus word, another bullshit word, and you want to try to make it a scientific word. Empathy and altruism are not scientific words. They don't have explicit definitions. They're the emotions that produce that behavior that mimics it, okay, has nothing to do with any kind of qualified description of what might be described as something purely altruistic, okay? It's always polluted by these base emotions of, like I said, this is about honor, this is about self-respect, this is about ego, this is about desire, okay? I mean, men don't give women boxes of chocolates because they're empathetic or altruistic, like they just feel like giving away boxes of chocolates. No, they're expecting something in return.
And I understand that, but look at what she goes on to say. There's a dark underside to all this group nurturing. A human mother's care for her infant is more contingent on circumstances than the care of ape mothers. If a hunter-gatherer mother feels she is not getting enough support from others, she may abandon or kill her newborn. Natural
Again, what does she base this on? Do they have some sort of statistics or something? I don't think she does. I don't think that this has ever been studied in enough depth where any kind of scenario could be produced that somehow the unwanted have killed their own infants. And what would be the genetic consequence of that? Yes, that the ones who don't get care, the ones who aren't loved, get killed off. Yeah, that might be part of the genetic component. That might validate this whole idea that you have to look like them, you have to act like them, you have to be like them. If you're not like the rest of the tribe, that's right, you're going to be treated like fucking shit. So there might be a genetic obligation, a genetic influence that reinforces that behavior, because if you're not one of them, you will be isolated and essentially incapable of reproducing.
selection thus favored babies who excelled at mind reading.
Now, right there, I mean, can we just stop right there? I mean, what the fuck is that? Babies that excelled at mind reading. I mean, even if it's a metaphor, it's a disgusting metaphor to have in a scientific, anything that's going to be even called close to scientific. I mean, what a crock of shit. Babies do not have the capacity to be empathetic or altruistic. That is just nonsense. Anybody selling that crap might as well be selling some 6,000-year-old history, story of the history of man on Earth. I mean, this is just fucking creation science nonsense.
Can intuit and manipulate the emotions of their mothers.
Intuit the emotions of their mothers. And what is that nonsense? That is just such a crock of shit. There's nothing more selfish on the face of the fucking earth than a human baby. I've seen them, and I haven't even had huge exposure, but I'm sure people who've seen them, they'll piss in your goddamn face. I mean, come on. This is bullshit.
And other potential caregivers to ensure that they get the care they need to survive. But what comes out of
now, all they do is they have, there's triggers, okay, and what, there might be 15 of them, and babies will respond one way and in one circumstance and one way in another circumstance because, of those 15 triggers, the 7 right ones or wrong ones are pulled. Big fucking woo deal. This is not empathy. This is not altruism. This has nothing to do with even any kind of rational conception of what these words mean. This idea that we biologically have some sort of inhibition about killing each other for our gain is nonsense. There's no evidence in the historical record of any of that. The fact that we will fight for our kids or our wife, that is in the historical record, and that has nothing to do with empathy or altruism. It has everything to do with possession.
this is the most interesting part. Empathetic kids become empathetic adults. In this way, cooperative.
Now, there's no evidence of that either. This is just not, there's no way you can base this on any kind of, there's no history, there's no observable, documented evidence of any difference between the races in terms of their capacity to be empathetic or altruistic. You're going to show me some kind of study that's going to demonstrate a single difference between any racial group on those two words? This is preposterous fucking nonsense. There is no genetic quality of empathy.
Breeding promoted the emergence of extraordinary hypersocial intelligence. And I think that is
extraordinary hypersocial intelligence. This is more babble. Super Jesus power. Saintly, spiritual, ruby rubbing magnificence. I mean, this is just bullshit. This is just fucking, you tie some words together, just complete fucking shit. Doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
exactly what has happened. We have become a hyper-social species, capable.
Oh, whatever. Hypersocial species. We are not more social. We are not more. There's no evidence of any of this. There's just none. There's no evidence of this. All right? Hypersocial? How are we more social than the chimpanzees or the bonobos? How? Explain it. This is just so stupid. Our seals, we go through all these other animals that live socially.
Social intelligence. We, as a result of that, have the capacity to feel what suffering is
Okay, so you think when like the herd of whatever wildebeest or whatever being attacked, and so there's one little one that's going to get attacked, and so the rest of them form a circle around it, okay, with their horns pointed out. That you're telling me they're doing that because they're empathetic, because they understand something, you know, or they're being altruistic. They're saying, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the young one. No, they're doing it because all they know is bad, and this is what biology seems to fit into. This is what I do when I have this sense of vulnerability. This is the maneuver I make when I'm vulnerable. This is how I wet my pants, whatever the analogy would be. But yeah, that's what they're doing. It has nothing to do with empathy.
is for sentient creatures who are not human beings. And that, I think, is a step in the right direction. I'm not going to go in.
Yeah, I think it is completely preposterous for you people to think there's some sort of genetic solution to empathy and altruism. They're just genetically going to make more empathetic or altruistic human beings, that somehow that's even possible. It's just complete nonsense. We don't breed true. What, Jeffrey Dahmer's father was a maniacal killer that had a desire to eat other people? Nonsense. His grandfather? No, nonsense. No, he's an aberrant. You could go through all of it. I mean, this is just what Gandhi's parents were magnificent, empathetic people. I don't think they were. I don't know them, but I don't think they were.
To hardy thinking that we may be at the end of this particular part of our evolution and going the other way. I hope.
Yeah. Again, how could even somebody even postulate something so nonsensical? She studied world population and determined that genetically we are becoming less empathetic. She did that somehow. I mean, this is just, God, you might as well be talking about, you know, we might as well have pyramid theory. Yeah, let's sharpen your razor blades. Hang them over a pyramid.
We aren't, because I think it's an attribute that we need to cultivate in our species in order.
Cultivate in our species by genetically enhancing ourselves with empathetic genes. I mean, what a pile of shit.
To stop suffering. People can't be told they must care about other creatures to stop.
Oh, whatever. They must care. It's not about telling them anything. It's about understanding. If you don't get that still, if you're still too stupid to figure out that this is just about breaking old memes and looking at life for what it is, and then you can do the simple math. Get rid of the bullshit. Get rid of the crap. The cultural nonsense that's in people's heads, and it will be really easy for them to see the truth. It's not complicated. It really isn't complicated. There's this pool of sentient organism. Okay, that's the truth. It's all around us. And whether you think animals are half as good as you, or 1/4 as good as you, or 1/10 as good as you, you still have to think they have a value because they are capable of feeling. And that's all you have to do. And then you just do the simple 1 + 1 kind of math. It doesn't matter who suffers. It doesn't matter whether they're black or white or red or any other color. It doesn't matter what. It just matters that they suffer. I mean, that doesn't take much intelligence to figure out. But apparently you can't figure it out if you have bullshit in your fucking goddamn head. So if you get the bullshit out of people's heads, they can understand the simple math. And that will be real empathy. That will be real altruism.
Suffering, and that's what you do a lot, Inmendham. They have to have it more as a part of their genetic inheritance.
I mean, so how are you going to do that? You're going to take all the human beings now and genetically modify them? Well, you can't do that. Are you going to somehow change their reproducing structure of our society and who's doing the reproducing? Well, I haven't heard you suggest how you're going to do that. I've made suggestions, but no one else does. So it's just nonsense. And how long would it take you to rebreed the human race into this thing that would mimic what? That would be like what? I mean, this is just so insipid. You cannot genetically impose understanding. You just can't do it. It's just a silly pursuit.
And if you don't see that, you can't see or understand the complexity of what's going on here. Ah,
yeah, so I'm the one who doesn't understand the complexity. again, creationists can say that shit all the time. Well, you just don't know. You just don't have the love of God in your heart, and so there you can't understand. You can't understand. Well, fuck you. I do understand. I understand the biology, and I understand the evidence that's all around us. It's, that's in all those other books. Those history books. Yeah, fuck that kind of bullshit. Like, I'm the ignorant one. Because it hasn't been revealed to me that our chromosomes are full of empathy genes. Bull fucking shit. There's boner genes. There's all kinds of genes, but there ain't no fucking empathy gene.
So I've taken just a minute or two to kind of outline, in probably too tedious a detail, exactly what argument Sarah Hardy is making and why it's an evolutionarily based argument.
Yeah, with no evolutionary evidence, I'm sure. Like I said, I don't know how you can look at our human history and come up with any evidence of any of this stuff. There's no delineation between species. War is among all of them. The native populations of North America, in spite of the propaganda, were incredibly violent. This is just all crap. There's just no evidence of this genetic empathy gene shit.
And why it does use empathy as a part of that argument, and why empathy is not just a warm and fuzzy word or whatever you...
Yeah, right. I said it has a warm and fuzzy definition, but she's not going to do any of this stuff. There's not going to be any of this, like, square line, straight line kind of shit. She's just going to talk nonsense here. But these are stupid, silly words, and until you qualify your definition of what the fuck this word means, again, I stated that my interpretation of the word empathy is a capacity to feel somebody else's pain, to put yourself in their position and realize their hardship or misery or suffering or vulnerability or whatever it is you're empathizing with. Now, if you have some different definition, but that's got to, first you have to establish a definition for these words. To throw these words into any kind of scientific discussion about what a human being is just as silly as throwing the word love in there. It's a bullshit word until you define it explicitly.
Referred to it as, it is something that has a very deep connection to our evolutionary past, and you don't seem to like that, and you don't seem...
Look, I'm just saying that has nothing to do with the true emotions. The true emotions are ones of possession, of power, of ego. These are concepts you can talk about scientifically because there's demonstration of this psychology existing. But there is no demonstrated psychology of these concepts. They're concepts of understanding. They are not concepts of psychology.
You want to sanction that, and you don't want to look at the work of Franz de Waal, and you don't want to look at Sarah Hardy's work.
Yeah, and I don't want to look at the works of Jerry Falwell. I don't read his books either.
You don't have to. Nobody's telling you have to. But would you please stop telling me...
Well, you're telling me that there's an argument to be made here, and the evidence is in those books, and that's your fucking contention, is that this is the dominant progressive new science discovering the truth. And so you're the one setting this up as if I somehow do now have the obligation to read this tripe because somehow it turns Darwin on its head, which it doesn't fucking do.
That I am not making an argument. Now, if you were watching...
Now she's know what her argument's gonna be now? Now she's gonna rag about a stupid comment in the comment section. She's gonna waste time doing that. And for what? This is how she argues.
I want to give you a warning. I'm going to do something tedious right now about comments because Inmendham blocked me some time ago. He and one other user that I have...
Yeah, well, how many people do you have blocked? I've had 1,000 people blocked at one time. That's my right to tell people, no, you've lost your right to comment on my videos because you're always off subject, you're always perverting the subject, or you're just being an ad hom asshole. Alright, that was my opinion of you. You're a fucking slandering bitch in my fucking opinion. All right, the crap that you have stirred, the bullshit accusations you have made are been outrageous. You get into a discussion about the ethics involved in the Holocaust, what exactly took place historically, and in that discussion you lie about being fucking goddamn Jewish. And then you sit there and will point your fucking finger at me and say I lack integrity? Fuck you, bitch.
Also made a video about. They're the only two people I know of who have blocked me. But he's had me blocked for a long time. Then he does these.
The only person I know of that I'm blocked by is the Amazing Atheist. So if that's the moniker of credibility, I mean, I'm way up there, right? Only one person and it's the Amazing Atheist? Gee, I must be a spectacular human being.
Arguments, and I can't respond to them directly. I can't respond in the comments section. I can't respond in any way. So.
Oh, you're right. I've stopped you from making videos explaining your position. I've completely destroyed your ability to turn on a camera and do your little talky thing here and explain your side of some story. Now, I've completely annihilated that ability. And my comment section is just full of personal attacks on To Be Serious. You're going to post a comment here that doesn't have anything to do with you really, doesn't really say a damn thing about you. Your comment section is just littered. Okay, it's a litany of personal attacks against me. So I'll read some of your comments on your last video. How would that be? Not in this video, though, later. And just demonstrate. And why would I waste my time? Why would I want the right to go argue with your scuzzy fucking followers of your tripe? Why would I want the right to argue with motherfuckers who can't do better than Gary Sucks? Fuck you.
As usual, what has happened in the comment section of his video is there have just been pile-ons about what I think and what my argument is, and I can't say, I really am not making the argument you're crediting to me. So I'm going to post 2 comments. These are sort of...
Yeah, pretty, pretty salient arguments against your position. Nothing personal, nothing ad hominem, and yet you're going to sit there and make this scene about it. It's just an incredible duplicity and hypocrisy here for you to complain when read your own comments section, you dumb.
Characteristic of the kinds of things of people telling me what my argument is. Here's the first one. Mary Midgley type of argument from To Be Serious. Richard Dawkins had similar accusations of reductionism fired at him by her. Darwin's theory has been built upon, but the essence of the framework he set up is not going away. Selfish genes can work together if they get tangled up in each other. Inmendham covers this pretty well. The problem is that people are separate from each other in ways that a body of genes are not, and coalitions can break down. The bonds of empathy are weak in difficult times.
Yeah, and more importantly, the bonds of empathy aren't bonds of empathy. Okay, they're bonds made out of other freaking emotions of attachment. They're bonds of familiarity, it's like your friend. You know what I mean? You spend some time with somebody, you get to know them, you bond with them. They're bonds. You should just end with the word bonds. Bonds doesn't have much to do with empathy, does it? See, bonds of empathy. Isn't that kind of a silly sentence in a way? I mean, should empathy depend on a bond? Do you have to bond with the person before you can have empathy for them? Isn't that what destroys the whole concept of empathy? Isn't that what makes the whole thing nonsense? Is because it's completely perverted by this preference and prejudice bullshit? Because the goddamn animal's not attractive or cute, we don't care about it, so we'll eat one animal and we'll have one lying on our fucking couch and we'll feed it turkey? What is that crap? That is crap. That's your genetics at work. Okay? It has to do with a trivial, superficial bond and doesn't have anything to do with the real character of the goddamn feeling creatures. It doesn't have anything to do with the goddamn fucking truth. So your word empathy becomes completely just another one of these words. You might as well call it racism. That's what you might as well say. You want bonds of racism. Okay? That's all we're talking about here.
And then he goes on to say, if altruism is too prevalent when survival counts, the altruistic die out.
Yeah, well, look, this has never been a problem, prevalent altruism. And that's actually not true, because actually that's what the war thing is, okay? You know, the altruistic will succeed because they're going to win the war, okay? The guys willing to give it all are the ones that are going to win the fucking war.
Bit of altruism doesn't cost a great deal in families, but too much of it tends to invite freeloading.
And again, it's never altruism anyway. This is just such a this is not a word that can be talked about in a genetic context. It's just silly to do it. You don't have an explicit definition of what altruism is, so this is bullshit. My argument is that altruism, as we are commonly using it now, is made up of, it has an underlying psychological territory. And so you have to deal with words of love, possession, desire, attachment, addiction. Those are the words you have to deal with if you're going to talk about altruism in this stupid human context. I would like to talk about the word in a utilitarian, scientific, rational, logical context. In that context, real altruism requires understanding. That's what it requires. There's no fucking, you don't have any capacity to be altruistic as a selfish gene human unless you have understanding, knowledge,
ends
wisdom.
up being limited to tit-for-tat trades that may not receive a return of favor. If you want altruism, you first have to get past surviving, hence the intellectual leap needed for admirable types of altruism, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter. It's not about survival. We're gluttons by nature. We see it in human behavior. Where is the evidence? We have all these fat people in their fat houses and their fat, you know, civilization countries feeding on the poor, starving people all over the fucking world. There's no evidence of this altruism. There's evidence of greed. There's evidence of selfishness, self-indulgence, control, possession, ownership. These are the concepts controlling human behavior. All right, and they're not even. That's the root of the problem. Is in the nature of the organism's self-interest based on its personal genetic code. And if our code was held in some queen somewhere, then maybe this altruism would be possible. But it's not. We have individual genetic code, and the only way it gets it to the future is if this body gets to the future. That's the only way my genetics get to the future.
We have sexual competition. That means there are always reasons to be selfish. Okay.
And again, it's not just about being, you know, defending your selfish self-existence. It's about, you know, it's even chimpanzees. You'll see them do it. I mean, come on. You throw a pile of bananas on the ground, and they'll take away as many as they can carry.
That, of course, is a comment that's getting a lot of applause on Inmendham's channel.
Oh yeah, and it was just such a brutal personal attack against you that you know, it's nonsense. So what are you going to say to that? You're going to sit there and fill the comment section with clumps and clumps and clumps of your 500 words of characters of bibble babble and get absolutely nowhere. So yeah, I've denied you the right to make a mess on my comment section. Okay, because none of this was actually in my video, so this isn't even relevant.
And I just want to point out that he's saying I'm making claims I'm not making. He's making claims for biological evolution that seem shaky.
Well, then why'd you call him out, so to speak, and tell him to clarify his position, or to sit there and be more fair to your position, and maybe he'll make a video then. All right, but it's not my job to provide all you jackasses an opportunity to make a mess. Fuck that, okay?
Say, but let's get on to my reply. I can't put this on Inmendham's channel because.
Yeah, again, you're going to keep whining. Why? I don't see what the purpose of it or the necessity of it. Why should I open my comment section to you assholes to talk about shit that's completely unrelated to the video I posted? Why should I do that? What would be the point in doing that? I don't see any point. You can have the argument on your own comment section. Invite him onto your comment section. Okay, maybe I should, what, should I post on every one of my videos? If you'd like to talk to 2P Serious personally, here's her channel address. Yeah, go comment to her personally.
as I said, I'm blocked by him, and I think one other person has blocked me. So far, I think that's the only, since I've been on YouTube for over.
Oh yeah, well, the same here. Like I said, the only person I know who's ever blocked me has been the Amazing Atheist. No one else has ever blocked me. That's right, because I've never made a rude and obnoxious comment on anyone's video ever, or an off-subject comment.
For years now, I've had 2 people block me, so that's not too bad, I guess. Anyway, this is my reply, which I wasn't able to post. If this is your summary of my argument, you have not understood me. About Dawkins, I made a video in which he expressed his frustration at the simplistic take that too many superficial thinkers have had on his portrayal of the role of the selfish gene. And then I have a link to a video of mine, which I made about this. I've read a lot of, he claims that I must be a follower of Mary Midgley. I've read.
I don't think he claimed that. I mean, you know, let's go back to the comment. All he said is that it's like the attack that Mary Midgley made against Dawkins, or the frustration Dawkins had with her interpretation. So whatever. Yeah, there's parallels. Whatever. I just all this noise about this comment is just silly. This is a pretty disciplined, rationally made argument about specifics that have nothing to do with you. And because the first sentence addressed you, this is just hysterical nonsense. I think you have some hysterical gene running through you.
A lot of Mary Midgley. I agree with some of her, as I say here, but I generally tend to disagree with her more than I agree. So, you know, I don't know why he thinks I'm an advocate for Mary Midgley. I've never said anything about Mary Midgley, nor have I made any claims that I think her philosophy is more valid than any other philosopher I read.
That doesn't even make sense. You just throw them all in a pile and they're all mediocrely valid or something? I don't know what the hell that is.
So that mystifies me. You'll see a link here to the video that I did on Richard Dawkins.
You didn't do a video. You posted a clip of Richard Dawkins talking about his book, and you know, the fact that people have misunderstood it as he wasn't saying the selfish human. He was talking about genes and how the pieces of chemistry actually compete with each other to define the basic character of the genetic organism.
There'll be a link right on the slide here, so it'll take you just about 2 minutes, a little bit less than 2 minutes to watch it, so if you have time, do that. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, well, whatever. Like I said, you can go on and on about this, but yeah, this argument's not going to end. You think there's a genetic solution to the human problem. You think we genetically need to what? Like I said, it just doesn't make any sense. The only place I derived any capacity to be a decent human being from was from understanding, from acquiring the understanding that I wasn't the only consciousness on planet Earth, that I wasn't the only welfare that needed concern. That's how I did it, through understanding, not through any genetics. My genetics were, I want. That's all. I want. I want. I want. That's what we are genetically. We're not genetically, I'll be fair. That's not in the code. Alright, so anyway, enough of that one. Alright, yeah, we'll just make this one video, and then we'll do Broken Mac, and then we'll do comments. Oh, a lot of videos coming up probably, and I gotta do a Christmas special of some kind. So, lots of work to do. Feature creatures. Oh yeah, and then conference report guy. Yeah, I mentioned him a couple of videos maybe. Yeah, it was really nice, you know, he said nice things, and yeah, so same here, Fred. You know, if you kill a few people, you know, yeah, I'm the guy to call. I'll help you work it out. Because I'll know, you know, it had to be a mistake of some kind, right? Things just got out of control, that's all. Anyway, yeah, so anyway, that was nice. Alright, so till next time and such and so forth and whatnot. But even, you know, yeah, but Fred, you know, your definitions of words too, it's kind of irritating. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to do that. Well, yeah, I'll have to do a response video. I mean, the whole metaphor of the chess thing and everything, I don't really think that works for understanding determinism. You know, I just it's not mechanical enough. You know, I mean, understanding determinism is understanding it like a car engine, and realizing that you can understand it on different levels, but on all levels it requires the input for there to be output. There requires triggers to be pulled before something is going to happen, and there's cause and effect, and that's more about what determinism is. I mean, that should be the concept at the focus, is the cause and effect. It's not about depth of understanding. It's understanding the idea that there's no effect without the cause, and there's no causes without effects.